Ladies and gentlemen, Flint Clark.
Well, this is our opportunity and we're here. And the first thing that I'd like to do is thank each one of you, because as we've achieved the beginnings of excellence and have led, now we're leading in the 11th month, leading the American restaurant industry, sales, profits, customer counts. We continue to be at record levels of profitability for our company, numbers we have never seen. All of it is you. All of it is in the restaurants. It's not Lexington. It's not the division offices. We all know that this concept is based upon the transaction with our customer. We are going to grow this business. We're going to add a lot of new units. Not only are we going to maximize, we've got 1,000 out there, we need to maximize the cash flow. Is it a drive-through? Is it additional land? Is it additional parking? Is it a rebuild? Is it a new counter? Whatever it is, in each restaurant, we need to do it. We need to maximize the cash flow and get our restaurants from 625,000, which they'll be this year. There's no reason we shouldn't be doing 800,000 in 3 years per restaurant. So that's number one strategy. But number two is to grow and grow rapidly. We should be adding 40, 50, 100 units a year, new units that we own. Our franchise partners are beginning to grow. There's a lot of activity. Restaurants under construction and deals about to be signed. We have just signed a national commitment in Mexico. It's going to be wonderful. Mexico will be a wonderful country for the concept. My point on the 4 divisions is, in a company growing rapidly, which we will be doing, and attempting to maximize each division, the 250 shops, there is so much to do per division that 4 is the right number. And the economies of scale on 4 divisions work just fine. We don't need to have 2 or 3 to have better economies. We want closer to the field management so that we can indeed deliver the concept. Next, we have a division vice president who has demonstrated leadership, understanding, compassion, has put a set of numbers in place for the last 12 months that are shocking. They're so good, and done in a way that the future is as bright as the past. Those of you in the Southeast, I've heard many comments about how you enjoy Paul McFarland as your leader. Paul has also, during his tenure, become an informal leader to the rest of operations, has become a strong leader in Lexington as to where the business is going, has put in perspective a number of issues dealing with all of you, and that you come first, and you come first on the resources. He understands the business and your P&Ls, as you in the Southeast know, and your register printouts like very few people. And he's just done a wonderful job, and we are so thankful as a group to have you, Paul, and thanks for the past and thanks for the future. Here's Paul McFarland.
Good morning. How are you? First of all, I've never given a speech to such a large audience in my entire life. so please bear with me. Think that for a moment one day you could do this also. Think about it a little bit there. But as I look around, I see, and one thing I was doing while Clint was talking was looking at all the great operators that I've come to know and meet in the last couple of years in the Southeast, and certainly even in other parts of the country. And I did travel in many, many of those restaurants in the Northeast. And as an old-time operator, one that's in his 19th year of the business, and I saw you all sitting out here so calmly this morning, eating your breakfast, drinking the second cup of coffee, one question just kept going through my mind again and again and again, and I have to ask it. I can't wait any longer. Who's opening the shops this morning? Now, to foster learning and understanding, we used a simulation exercise which has been successfully used to train people in the restaurant and hotel industry since 1969. Be interested if, from the good professor, if anyone from Howard Johnson's attended the course back in '69. But anyway, this is called the Cornell Restaurant Administration Simulation Exercise, or CRASE.
We have, in addition to Professor Chase, who you'll meet shortly, who developed CRASE, and his staff of associate and assistant professors who work with him, we have 6 Cornell graduate students working behind the scenes who will load the data that you develop into the computer to produce the results, which will come out in the form of stock prices for your company. So let me just repeat that. We're going to be very, very sure that the information that you give to us is properly entered, accurately entered into the computers, because the outcome will be a stock price, a price per share for the stock of your company. And you'll see on your table, on the placard down at the bottom, stock symbol, and I'm looking at table 67, and their stock symbol is D67, and here's table 70, their D70, and that's your ticker number, that's your stock symbol. And up on these TV screens throughout the week will be, as you can see, the value of your stock, and you'll be able to tell how well your company is doing. This is like watching CNN and watching the stock prices. And this is incredible. And now, how do you get those numbers? Well, we get them by accurate data entry. And that takes not only the people we have working behind the scenes, but it takes you, and this is the reason why we have some house rules.
My name's Bob Chase. I'm affiliated with, or have been affiliated with Cornell University, I think, for 30 years. I started when I was 10. But I guess I am the senior member of the faculty. But to be honest, some of you may never have heard of Cornell University until today. How many of you have really, if we turn the clock back, say 24 hours, really had never heard of Cornell University? Had not heard of Cornell. Very good. How many of you have heard of Sesame Street? Yeah, I think Sesame Street's probably better known than Cornell University. So what we're going to do today is we're going to pretend that we're all going back to Sesame Street, and Sesame Street's job today is to run a restaurant. And let's see, Sesame Street is always brought to you by a number, isn't that right? So the number for today, you got this little card right here, okay? And it says conference notes. It's also a nice ad for the restaurants and the hotel. You got this little thing right here. I want you to write down the number 3, because today Sesame Street is going to be brought to you by the number 3. Let's see, we got to come up with 3 things. Clint mentioned 3 very, very key players this morning, and he began where I think we all should begin with, is the guest. So the first of the three key players is going to be the guest. So just write down the word guest, if you would. The next key player he mentioned, of course, was management, or the manager. So the second of the three key players is going to be the management. And he didn't mention at great length the other key player, but the other key player in any line of business, of course, is going to be the person who brings their monetary resources to the opening party of your little restaurant. And that's the person, I suppose we could just refer him to the owner, the person who's going to bring the capital that's necessary to run your little restaurant. So Sesame Street's going to be brought to you today by three key players: the guest, the manager, and the owner, who is going to bring capital, let's say, to the opening party of your little restaurant. So let's see. We're going to bring you the number three. We're going to have three key players. We've got to begin. Oh, I suppose this is fair. As a teacher, one of your jobs, and as you are as managers, you're always teachers, is to find out a little bit about your audience. So I want you to write down underneath those three key players the width of the counter at Long John Silver's, the serving counter. Okay? Write down the width of the counter. Uh-oh. Well, it is, I'll tell you one thing, it's not a diameter. This isn't a round table. This is the width of the counter at Long John's table. How wide is it? I don't want the length, I want the width. Uh-oh. How many of you wrote down 30 inches? How many of you wrote down 36? How many of you wrote down 48? How many of you wrote down less than 30? Does anybody know how wide it is? How much? Ooh. Wait a minute. Here's one. Are you running for political office? He says it varies from shop to shop. And that's exactly probably what the answer is, right? But I think for our theme in Sesame Street, we got these three key people, and they all come together at the width of the counter. So our theme for today is going to be managing the last 3 feet. I'm going to assume 3 feet because a lot of you said 36 inches. And that's your job as a manager. By the way, who supplied the counter? That's generally the job of the capital, people who bring money to the party, and that's converted into a counter width. The management team is on one side of the counter. Who's on the other side of the counter? The guest, okay? So your job and our little task is going to be measuring and managing the last 3 feet in your little restaurant.
You'll notice that the prices are the best in town if we look at these three concepts. As Clint says, I think it's a phenomenal concept.
But you're going to miss the discerning customer that's out there. I mean, there is a market out there that's just dying to come in and have better service, higher quality food served in that great ambiance.
All three of them, yeah.
And that's, whoa. You got to have it both ways. And that's the reason for the gold plan. Because the gold plan was not appealing to the... Now, Don is right. Some people want to spend $10, but there aren't very many of those people. You're right that there's a lot of people that want to spend maybe $5, but the optimum place to be is in the middle. Yes.
All I'll say is differentiate your product. Let the others fight it out in this middle and upscale. Make yours downscale, and the profits will come in.
And that, folks, is what's called an animal story. Just look at it this way. Every fast, quick service operation that you talked about there had to have some cute little animal right along with it. Well, we don't want those in our operation. We want nice, clean, upscale restaurants, and that's what your customers are looking for. They're looking for the opportunity to come in and buy a really quality product served in a fantastic fashion So make sure you choose that upscale market.
Well, these guys, bunch of windbags. This restaurant is going to open in 15 minutes. And you've got one decision to make in the next 15 minutes. How many of you have ever read The 1-Minute Manager?
When we get lousy service, our temptation is to, we want to machine gun the person who gave us the service, when in fact it may have nothing to do with that person individually and have far more to the system they're managing, they're having to live with. As my good friend Gary Rumler loves to say, you can take great people, highly trained and highly motivated, put them in a lousy system, and the system will win every time. Part of what the gifts that we need to bring to our employees is that backing. It is that support. It's that I'm behind you. It's that kind of effort that says, I care about you.
We've got to keep all three parties happy. We need to make sure that owners, managers, and guests are all satisfied. What we like to call the contract where everyone wins. If any party comes up short, you might be able to survive in the short term, but you're not going to be able to make it in the long term. And in the long term, if you want to survive, we've got to make sure that all of our partners win. Owners, guests, and managers.
The road to excellence has its twists and turns, ups and downs, but all roads lead to our promise to be the best. Here's Long John Silver's most frequent flyer, Clint Clark.
I'm certainly pleased to address all of you tonight. Last night we considered the more formal night, and we thought we would have a buffet tonight, a few words. We have some more shop tributes, as well as we will see some very beautiful people after I'm off. We'll see some very beautiful people on the screen. The conference, unfortunately, is in essence coming to a close. We only have tonight and tomorrow. My thanks to all of you as shop managers. This certainly has been what we had hoped for. It's more than we expected. It's fun to see the yearning to learn, to develop, to be better. The excellence journey is a real journey, and I think we've begun that journey. We'll start, and I think it's only fair to begin with Mr. Kevin Lurch. Kevin, as you know, was our captain's trophy winner in the Northeast last night. Kevin is Elmira, New York, and his performance is just wonderful. It's a new shop that was built. It didn't get off to a real good start. The numbers now are splendid. In July, for example, his sales are up 11%, his cash flow was up 16%. In '92, his cash flow increased more than $31,000 to $110,000. His sales topped $577,000, which is an increase of over $72,000 over the previous year. Randall Carr. Randy operates one of our new shops in Johnson City, Tennessee. It's a converted Wendy's. It's performing extremely well. Our path to excellence is continuing. We are better, and each day we get better. Mike Johnson is one of the finest managers in our system. He's done a great job in difficult situations with much adversity to deal with. The next Chicago manager certainly comes to us as not a stranger after last night. And there she is, Joyce Randall. Joyce, thanks a lot. Last year, 189% cash flow improvement, a revenue increase of 33%. She has moved one of the old opportunity shops, as we used to call them, to a moneymaker. And guess what? For the last 11 weeks, including an estimate for today and tomorrow, she is up about 33% over last year. How's that? Dorothy Warner. Same story, south of Atlanta. In the old days, I finally understand now what was happening then. In the old days in Atlanta, you'd land in Atlanta and they'd run you out of town quickly. They had 3 or 4 shops they'd take you to. You never saw certain shops. Although, Harold, we saw your shop. We saw the Georgia Tech shop. And that was fun to see you, and it's fun to see you again. But anyway, they'd run us south of town. Jan's shop, Dorothy's shop. Dorothy would work you on guest service, and I'd been here up, and Hinton would be there, and that's the way they'd work you. Anyway. We only saw the shops plussing. A great job, Dorothy, a great job. Her sales in 92 are up over 100,000. Cash flow is up 50,000. Terrific. I mean, we went to the right place. Now the whole market is zinging. It's rare over the last 2 months the market isn't up 13, 14, 15, or 16% a day. Good performance. Lee Craven's, Kimball, Tennessee. You'll enjoy this. They delivered the promise. They delivered it so well that they closed to Captain D's. Here's our team in Kimball. When there's a competitor we don't need to deal with, obviously it helps our sales. Their sales are up 19%. Cash flow is up 31%. Good job. Now you're going to see, and I'm sure they love taking this photograph. That's the for sale sign on the D's property. John Worley, Joplin, Missouri. July's sales are up 16%. His cash flow in July was $25,000. How about that? Let's go back to the Northeast. Let's go to Altoona, Pennsylvania. Bud Callender. Bud, we congratulate you. I know you've been recently promoted to area supervisor. Bud joined the company in 1980 as an assistant manager. In '83, he was promoted. Sales under his leadership in that shop have increased threefold. He now has 2 side dining rooms. He finally got, on a $1 million shop, he finally got a drive-through. Finally a drive-through. We had a discussion today with the $1 million shop managers and talked about the focus has to be, instead of $1 million, let's do 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. More registers, dedicated takeout, drive-throughs, better service. 1.3 million and don't have a drive-through, and just now got it and climbing. Okay, here is the Queen of the West, Diana Bellato. We all remember Diana as our 1990 Admiral's Trophy winner. She's also been promoted. She is now an area supervisor for the Northeast. Consummate operator, working the line, working her people, working the guests, loving it, smiling. It was a fun experience, and it was a real tonic for me to see that. And Diana, we thank you, and we're very proud of you, and We know that you will bring your optimism to the Northeast. Wichita, we hear about Wichita always. Not only is it a good market with good delivery and good operations, but we have some very visible shops in Wichita, as seen here. We've done some enhancements in the market, and they're fabulous. The shop that you see is 5119. It's managed by Jim Lyon, and Jim and his team have won the flagship award for the past 2 periods. Okay, let's see if you can recognize this, this next character here. This is a wonderful story. This is David Elliot Ness Nelson. Pretty creative, huh? Who knows what market David's from? How many shops do we have in Denver? How many do skippers have? So let's assume they have 20 or 18 and we have 2, so we're outnumbered 9-1. Guess what? David's sales are up 25% over 91. Cash flow was a positive 41,000. Do you know his wife, Betty? She runs the other shop. She had a sales increase in 92 of 31%. She's improved her bottom line 4-fold. And between David and Betty, they're doing a wonderful job of putting Skippers in disarray. Skippers is actually closing some shops in Denver, Colorado Springs as well. Jan Lawrence. Jan, at the luncheon today, we had a luncheon, as I said, and Jan said, what do you mean 30 seconds or a minute at the drive-thru? Today, America wants instant service. The standard has become instant. We don't have patience. We don't want to wait. There are many alternatives, so it's instant service. I thought that was really an interesting concept. Let's go now to Rockgate, Texas. Annette McKnight. And Annette finished 92 with an 8% increase in sales and improved cash flow by over 20%. Here's another great story from Michigan, Debbie McWilliams. Most of you in the Northeast have heard of Gratiot Road, I believe it is. It is an urban setting. It is an urban Detroit setting. Recently, she's transferred to Warren, but I thought it was important that we tell you what she did at Gratiot, and we'll also tell you what she did at what she's doing at Warren. She doubled weekly sales, Gratiot Road, to $18,000 a week. $18,000 a week. And you know what else? Her takeout percentage is like 80%, and she didn't have a drive-thru. She's gone to Warren, Michigan. The results in Warren, Michigan are equally spectacular. She took over a lower volume shop doing 7 a week. She has it to 94 a week. She's got cash flow up 1/3. Terrific. Great job, Debbie. It was really fun. Sally Enriquez, can-do attitude. Her shop in the month of July had a cash flow increase of 54%. Captain's Trophy winner 2 years ago. Thanks, Sally, and keep up the good work. Another story, also from Detroit. Jay Lewis manages 3464. 92 sales were up 22%. 760,000, not bad. Detroit's hot. You all have done a great job in Detroit. Chuck won the award last night. Great job. We've singled out only a few of you as examples. It's not so much a tribute to the people we saw, it's a tribute to all of you collectively. And we thought to give you a flavor of some of the things that we've seen would be kind of fun. It's you we're proud of. It's you we're thankful for the great results. They're your results. You should have all the pride. And as we go forward and make this company a great company, I will certainly remember that it was you who 23 months ago started this turnaround. We have only singled out a few tonight, but we all know there are many, many more examples. We look forward to '93. We're into it as we continue on this road of excellence. And it's a journey, and it's a wonderful journey. Thank you all.
How many of you know about what happened to Taco Bell in the last couple of years? Taco Bell, you all know them as competitors. And you might have heard of John Martin, who's the president of Taco Bell. A little point that tells you why they've had some sales increases, why they sort of set things on end last year. Their value meal was driven by John Martin, joined Taco Bell in 1983 with an idea. He looked at the Taco Bell income statement and saw that their cost of goods sold in 1983 was 27%. He remembered back to when he started working in the food service business, and he ran a restaurant, a full-service restaurant that had a very strong market position, mid-scale family kind of place, excuse me, that had a food cost percentage of 41%. Lines out the door. His concern with 27% food cost at Taco Bell was what? Every customer coming in the door was getting 27 cents worth of food for every dollar they gave him. If in a fast food environment you get 27 cents worth of food for every dollar you give somebody across the counter, are you getting a good deal? You're certainly not getting great ambiance. You're not getting a lot of service because you're waiting on yourself for all intents and purposes. You're paying for the decor, for the surroundings. What he said was there's a problem here. 73 cents of that dollar is going to something other than what the customer is taking with them. And he said we're going to change the nature of the business. We're going to go from a production facility with a 27% labor cost, and we're going to come up with the concept of value, the value meal. The value meal is lower prices at a higher food cost. System-wide, this year, they're aiming, their corporate mission is for a 41% food cost. 41 cents of every dollar is going to be on the plate. Can every company do that? No, and he knows that. He has a competitive advantage because it took him 5 years to lower their operating expenses 12%. And he took that 12% and put it back into the customer. 39% food cost the first year they introduced it. They lowered the prices and increased the food cost. And he called it a value meal. Now, is there a company in the business that doesn't talk about their value meals? Everybody has it. He changed the nature of the business that we're in. He is a catalyst for change because he focused on that value strategy. But if we think about it, when we have customers come into the restaurant, they look like what to us? When you see a customer come across the threshold and you're standing behind that 36-inch counter, what do you see? You see money. You see opportunity? Of course you do. What kind of opportunity do you see? $6.74 walks in the door. Every customer that comes in brings with him what? His checkbook, his bank account. He brings you $6.74, and you're going to do what with it? You're going to give him as much for it as you can. Right? Well, what does he leave with? What's he got? $2.63 in his belly. And what do we want to have when we walk out? We've got $4.11 or $4.12 that he's leaving when he leaves the restaurant. He comes in, and that's what he's got.
So we worked Los Angeles last night, and we got a team to come. And I believe that this team would stimulate the activities, and I think they do very well. They're very bright. Could we enter them at this point? They're willing to take a bit of a handicap. They might not have a bag full of equity, but when you see them, you'll understand they have plenty of equity. I think Bert would finance this group. What now, Don? What do you think we can bring them in? What do you think? Can we do it? Well, will you let another team come in, group? Okay, we have coming in. We have Madonna, who has come. Thank you, Madonna.
Welcome. Enough of this crazed business. It's time to play Truth or Dare. Please welcome my colleagues, everybody. There's Dolly Parton. She out there? Yes, there we are. And Marilyn Monroe. Hi, Marilyn. And there's Sonny and Cher. And Laurel and Hardy.
Hello. We very much appreciate all of you arriving from Los Angeles. I understand you're going to do a brief show, and then you'll take up your positions. And Professor Chase, we're anxious to see if we can break the record here with this new team. Okay? Is that all right? Can you accommodate them?
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you're ready. 9 to 5, for service and devotion. You would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. Want to move ahead, the boss won't seem to let me. I swear sometimes that man is out to get me.
Good evening, babies and gentlemen.
That's ladies.
Good evening, ladies and babies.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, what about the babies?
You see any babies here?
Well, you said that if we came here, we might meet a couple of cute babies.
You'll have to pardon my partner, he's not himself.
Well, sure I am, Ollie.
No, you're not.
Well, then who am I?
Your next iteration is due at 3 o'clock, slight time modification, 3 o'clock. Thank you very much, Madonna.
I'd like to begin with a simple question. And the question is perhaps too simple, and that is, what is marketing? And if you think about where we've started today, we've touched a little bit on each of those 4 P's: product, price, promotion, and place. The real world of CRASE is the real world of marketing. Now, perhaps many of you came to this conference thinking that you were maybe only, quote, operators. And I'd like to suggest for a moment that you brace yourself for a shock, because you're all in marketing. Now, if that shocks all of you and you want to rush out and wash your hands, please don't. You see, we're all marketers because, according to the definition, we all have to respond to the things that touch on the guest. And before you think that, you may think that I'm feathering my nest, I'll hasten to add that we all will be operators too, because if we don't execute the concept we've developed for the guest, then we fail. Well, as I said before, we have to understand the competition, and then we need to get that understanding from our guests, and then we need to act on it. Equivalently in CRASE, you've all had the opportunity, I presume at this point, to order the data. How many of you have ordered the data? Some of you have. Back in your shops, when you have a question, do you use the data? Do you check your product mix? Do you carefully review your 1-800 calls? Do you have mystery shopper information that you might check? Do you talk to a lot of guests or potential guests in the area? If you do, you're going to succeed, with one other caveat, and that is if you put your knowledge into action. The challenge for all of us is that all of these elements are interrelated, as I've suggested, the product and price and place and promotion things. Just as in CRASE, as you've probably determined, if you add advertising, that might impact on product mix, and certainly will impact, either positive or negative or neutral, on sales. If I lower prices, that has an impact. If I increase quality, that has an impact. And interestingly enough, back to the positioning thing, if you have too much quality or too much ambiance or too high prices, you can destroy your positioning. And that's why it's important that we understand all of those things and their relationship together.
I've been asked to try to tie some of the numbers in our business to CRASE, and I guess the way I've decided to do that is to kind of ask the top 10 questions that I often get asked when I get out into the shops about our numbers and about our business. So half of the stuff that I'm going to share with you today is kind of CRASE related, but the other half of the stuff that I'm going to share with you is kind of just good general information that I think you all will find very interesting. The first question that I often get asked, and if I can get the clicker to work here, all right, watch the slides. The first question we often get asked is, how do our sales trends really compare to the rest of the restaurant industry? Is the rest of the industry doing as well as we are? Are we any different? If we take a look at the 9 months ended July, our same-store sales in the same restaurants, comparable restaurants that were open a year ago, the same period, were up 10%. Captain D's were down 1% in their average sales. McDonald's, Wendy's, and Taco Bell were up slightly. As you know, they're also pushing a value message, as we are with the guests. KFC was down about 1%. Our sales on a comparable store basis lead the restaurant industry. The next question that I often get asked is, exactly how much money did the company make last fiscal year? And here's the answer. For the fiscal year ended this past June, on an average store basis, and this is how we analyze the business at corporate. We got about 1,000 company stores, and we look at it on an average basis, but we know that there is no such thing as an average restaurant. But if you take a look at the numbers, average customer counts up 6, sales up 7, operating cash flow up 18%. Our total company revenues were $658 million, up 6%, and the operating cash flow, counting all of the money that you all made in the shops, plus all of the money that we earn from franchisees in the form of royalties that they pay us, 4% of sales, to use our trademarks in our system, less all of the money to pay for the field supervision and the corporate office expenses and all of that stuff, came to $70 million, up 22%. The next question that we often get asked is, does a company have too much debt from its buyout? Is it getting ready to drown? Are we getting ready to go to bankruptcy court and try to duke it out with everybody that we owe money to? As some of y'all may know, Long John Silver's was bought back in September of 1989, and the buyers paid $600 million for our company. Now, how did they finance buying our company? It's kind of like buying a home. You put up equity money and a down payment, and you take a mortgage. And when you buy a home, sometimes you can put 5% down and borrow 95% of the value of your home with a mortgage. But most lenders like you to put a little bit more money down when you buy a house. In the case of Long John Silver's, of that $600 million, the buyers only put down about $85 million in cash, and some of that cash was the company's cash on hand, and they borrowed $515 million to buy this company. And as we all know, after that buyout, when fish costs went up, we tried to take menu prices up, customer counts went in the tank, we weren't watching the off-premise growth in the industry, we were about ready to drown in the debt. There was nothing really wrong with Long John Silver's that we couldn't fix with a better strategy, but clearly the buyers, when they bought the company, didn't anticipate these things, and we had too much cotton-picking debt. What happened? Well, in February of 1982, we had a major restructuring of that debt. It's like if something were to happen to you or your family personally and you couldn't make your mortgage payments, you go with your hat in your hand to your banker and you try to work out and you try to settle a different repayment schedule on that mortgage. And that's exactly what we worked so very hard to do over the past couple of years and accomplish it last February. So our goal is to increase cash flow. In 1991, this is where we made our money. We only made $57 million in cash. The stores threw off $83 million. The franchisees gave us $13 million. And G&A expense, general and administrative expense, was $39 million, so we made $57 million. Last year we made $70 million, and you can see where the increase came from. It came out of the shops, driving more customers through, and our fish costs were a little bit lower. What are the company's financial goals for fiscal 1993? This is the last question, and then we're going to be out of here, I hope. Okay, fiscal 1993, what are the corporate goals? Average stores, sales up 8%. We took the divisional financial plans and we racked them and stacked them, and that's what they came out to be, sales up 8%. It's a combination of baseline growth as well as all of the growth that we expect from all the money that we're going to reinvest in the business, the drive-through additions, the image enhancements, and all of that stuff. Gross profits up 8%. So as you look at your P&Ls on a monthly basis and look at that gross profit line, if you're up 8%, we're in the running. If we're not up 8%, then we're not in the running, and we got to start scratching our heads and figure out how to drive it. Labor productivity up 7%. Marketing expense at 7% of sales, and that's a little bit less than what we ran last year. Operating cash flow up 10% at the restaurant level. If we do this, the mission statement, the numbers are going to come out just fine. The numbers are symbols of the business, but they ain't the business. Y'all are the business, the stores are the business. And if we execute this, the numbers are going to take care of themselves, and y'all are going to make the job real easy on me when I get up in front of Wall Street and tell them our story. If we do this, I know it's Clint's goal that we can be Toys R Us, we can be Walmart, we can be one of America's great consumer growth companies. Our talent's as good as Walmart's, and I can tell you we're working hard to have the financial resources that Walmart has. So that's our opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jerry.
It was interesting. Yesterday afternoon, you heard a little talk about Long John Silver's, debt. How the debt affected the performance and debt service. And what I'd like to show you now is, prior to looking at this balance sheet, you have not been able to determine what your restaurant is worth. okay, regardless of those stock prices, well, I guess you could, because you could have calculated the stock price, used the stock prices, but the truth is you wouldn't have known how that was calculated. You had no idea what kind of assets the restaurant had, and so forth. And what we're going to do today is just take a brief look. This is a very simplified form of a balance sheet. Often balance sheets will go on for several pages. They get very, very detailed. But I think it's important that we understand that third partner. Remember, if we go back to the first day and Bob's little three partners, we have the guest, the manager, and the owner.
We're to the end now. There are a few closing remarks that I would like to make. Don is also going to be up to tell you the winners. Paul McFarland will send us out. This will go very quickly. If you look, please, at the slides, you see we have Vision 1995. This is what you would call a positioning statement as to where we want to be. As we go forward, hopefully more, and an investment in each of us can create significant benefits upon which we're going to build a great company. We're not asking in those numbers for significant increases that we won't achieve. Very attainable numbers. Our story is an incredible story. Most people believe it will continue. The positioning of the company intrigues everyone because of fish and seafood. Our customer counts, when they see them, they just can't understand it. We don't need to do an IPO today for capital or for our balance sheet, but what we need to do, the key reason for an IPO from my point of view, is that we can do more with ownership for all of us. So as we then go year after year after year, I'm going to be anxious to see employee ownership creep up into the high teens and the 20s, and certainly think by 96 or 97 that we can own 25% of the company. I thank you all. This group has been wonderful. It certainly has exceeded my expectations. And again, we thank you for the great results, and we thank you for the 3 days. Thanks.